What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Get Hoptimized Podcast. I am Chris, your host, and today we're going to be talking about something kind of fun. We're going to be talking about how to get creative with your beverage lines and how that can impact sales, beer festival operations, and more. Our guest today, Mr. Richard Eklund, has a lot of experience working with breweries and bars in this exact area. His company, Add a Tap, specializes in flexible and portable draft systems. I'm very excited to get into it. Richard, welcome to the show. What's up, dude?
Hey Chris, what's up with you? Thanks for having me today. I'm really excited to talk to everybody and I've been looking forward to this conversation. So, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. It's always nice to have somebody from Las Vegas too. So Las
Yeah.
Vegas to another Las Vegas, man. It's
Yeah.
good to
Yeah.
chat with you.
We had to find each other in Indianapolis.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that was so cool. It was like, oh snap, you guys are right up the street. That's so
Yeah.
cool. And I was glad to meet you guys in CVC or at CVC in Indy,
Yeah.
which is rad. And like I said, man, it's cool to see another Vegas dude. Let's maybe start with. I mean, you and I have already had some conversations. We kind of warmed
Yeah.
up to each other, but for those people that maybe don't know you and what you do and your background, tell us a little bit about you, how you got into the beverage industry. Let's start there, and then we can jump into some other stuff.
Yeah. I think I kind of stumbled into it, but my background, actually, I started out in automotive. I'm originally from Michigan, and I did that for many years. And I had a friend who kind of had an idea about draft systems and stuff. And, it's just one of those weird things where one thing leads to another. And I kind of fell into it, I guess you could say, more than I was directed to it. I kind of fell into it. So, and it's been really fun and exciting. And it's fun stuff. I mean, who doesn't like messing around with kegs of beer and kegs of whatever and kind of trying to be the center of the party. So that's
You
kind of
know,
how I started out.
it's a fun industry to be in beer and alcohol and stuff because you get to have fun at trying this
Yeah.
stuff. And I think the people are amazing, especially in the craft beer world and in the
Yeah.
other kind of craft beverage niches, cideries and distillers and stuff. It's all small business folks and trying to make a buck. And it's a fun place to do it. Everyone's pretty welcoming and it's cool, man.
It's really cool. I love the way people try to help each other in the industry. You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
doesn't I've been in a lot of businesses and there's a lot of cutthroat stuff out there. Everybody knows that. In this world, people are really trying to help each other. People will share, hey, this worked good for me, or that worked good for me, or that didn't work very well, or try this, which, that makes it really fun. And it makes it fun to be able to share with people and not feel like, oh, if I tell this person this, somebody else is going to be killed by it, or I'm going to be ruined or whatever. It's not like that. So it's a lot of fun in that way. And you're somewhere where if you're trying beers and testing beers, you're working, but not really. But
Yeah.
yes.
Yep. And you're right, dude. Like in other industries, I mean, I've worked with, tech, I've worked with legal, I've worked in medical as a marketing professional. And like, the way you consider your competition in some of these other industries out there is way more cutthroat. And like, you don't want to share things. There's like, I don't want to get anybody an edge because I'm fighting for every inch of it. And it just doesn't feel like that with craft beer, especially.
No.
It's like, yo, we're all in this together. We're trying to make it work. Here's my recipe. Here's how I do it.
Right.
Um, here's some marketing strategies, things that we found work for us. Maybe that can work for you. And if you grow, everyone gets to drink more beer, I guess. So,
Yeah,
that's
right.
good, right?
Right. That's the worst outcome is everybody drinks more beer. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what brought you to Las Vegas? You're not like born and raised here. So, what eventually got you out
Yeah.
here?
Well, it's kind of one of those things. I feel like I almost stumbled into that too. Maybe my whole life is one stumble after another. But uh, I moved from Michigan to California for a while, and I bought a condo in Las Vegas. And then one thing kind of led to another, and then we ended up coming to Las Vegas full time, and really enjoyed it. And um, I
How
still
long have
haven't
you been?
learned everything about Las Vegas. I think it probably takes somebody a long, long time to learn everything. But I don't know if that's even possible because as soon as you learn everything, something new happens.
Mm-hmm.
People will say to me, and I came to Las Vegas regularly even before I lived here, but people say, "Oh, I haven't been there in 10 years." I go, "You're not going to recognize the place. It's a whole
Every
animal."
decade, it really kind of has a major overhaul. And like
Yeah.
they just imploded the Tropicana, which was a staple. I mean,
Yeah.
in recent years, pretty crappy hotel. Honestly, it's not a nice one.
Yeah.
But there's so many new ones that are out there. There's new clubs, there's new restaurants, there's all kinds of stuff popping up, new shows. We got the sports
Crazy.
team now, sports teams now.
Teams.
It's
Yeah. Probably more to come. Well, baseball's coming for sure.
baseball's
The
coming.
A's are
That's for
coming.
sure.
And, I think a basketball team will come eventually.
I was surprised that basketball didn't come before
Yeah.
baseball because they do
Yeah.
the games here, the little kind of like exhibition matches and stuff out here, which and it seemed to be well received. I'm not a big basketball guy,
Yeah.
but I have friends that are, and it's like, yeah, the Lakers are out here and that kind of stuff. Occasionally,
Yeah.
it's a spot. So
The
uh,
city's ready for it. I think it's ready for it. So
I think so.
it'll happen.
You
Yeah.
make it out to lots of breweries around town.
We spend a lot of our time when we go out in the arts district.
Oh yeah, I love the arts
So,
district.
we're over there at Able and Huddle and Nevada Brew Works
Yeah,
a lot. So I just love the arts district. And I'll tell you, my one fear for the arts district is that it's becoming too popular.
yeah,
So I'm trying to keep it to myself a little bit, I feel like. And every time we go over there, which is often, I mean, I'm over there more than once a week usually, but at least once a week. And I feel like the other day we were walking down the street and there's a new Wicked Sister or something bar. I can't remember. And I was like, wait, when did this open?
yeah.
You know, things just all of a sudden pop up in all these apartments. Um, so
I mean,
yeah,
it's
we spend a lot
great
of
for
time over
them,
there.
the revitalization that's happened down there. It's great for that area and the breweries that are down there. It's like the brewery
Crazy.
row. And
It's
you mentioned
amazing.
some of
And
the
the
good ones. Yeah.
breweries here, I think they're amazing. I mean, Abel Baker's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, um, I really like all of them. They all have something, that's the fun thing about craft beer. Everybody's got something a little different. That's what makes it fun, right? Everybody
Yeah.
does it a little different. Abel Baker, though, they seem to be kind of stepping onto a national stage, in terms of
Yeah. They just won some
distributing.
awards. Big Dogs took home a gold as well at the World Beer Cup. I'm actually drinking the Abel Baker.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah. This is one of the
Yeah.
ones that won
The
took home the medal.
Mexican duck. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Yeah. I didn't know they won a medal for that.
They
Yeah.
won a medal. I forget. It might have been a gold medal. It was for the international lager, which is kind of like a Mexican lager category for the
Right.
most part. But it's a good beer, man. I'm happy for them. Las Vegas is on the map, dude.
That's
So
funny. That's interesting you're drinking that. If you would have asked me what, new beer, or I don't know if it's new, but what beer had I been enjoying lately from there, I would have said, oh, the Crazy Duck, the El
yeah,
Pollo Loco
solid
over
beer
at
for the
Able
summer,
Beer.
man.
And you're drinking it. That's crazy.
Yeah. No, funny stuff, man. Well, anyways, let's get into where we're supposed to be talking today. I
Yeah,
could talk
I'm
Las
sorry.
Vegas stuff forever. Let's talk
Yeah.
about adding taps and lines and
Yeah.
what this really means to the business and where maybe we start here is like, why this is relevant and important, right? Like what is the significance of like adding these beverage lines? Is it for like alternative beverage? Is it because hey, we're stacked and we need to have another beer thing? I mean, what's the pros, cons, benefits of thinking about adding lines to your brewery?
Yeah, I think the overall, idea or concept is that we have a totally flexible system that's super easy to use, super easy to set up, and it allows for breweries to do a multitude of things. Um, I'll give you a few examples. One example would be, hey, we've got 6 beers on our tap right now, or 20 beers on our tap. We just got a keg of this over here. We want to serve it on Saturday. What are we going to do? Should we take all this? No, let's just put an add a tap over here at this end of the bar, and we'll pour that keg out. Another thing for breweries is they're doing a festival. This is where I get into my whole no more jockey box scenario, which is our system is really a substitute for a jockey box also, but it's a lot nicer than a jockey box and it's a lot easier. So it allows you to very easily do festival work and not need a jockey box. It can also allow for breweries that are trying to sell their products into other restaurants, for example, to go in and say, "Hey, I've got this great beer. I want you guys to carry my beer. You carry these guys' beer." And the restaurant says, "Hey, my taps are full. Blah 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 blah." And you say, "Hey, I've got a way for you to pour my keg, Friday afternoon
Mm,
for happy hour. And all you do is bolt it onto the bar. We put the keg behind the bar and you're good to go. And you don't have to mess with anything else in your bar. So it doesn't change your business, it enhances your business.
yeah.
And its flexibility is such that you can do it right now. I mean, we could be, you and I could meet in 15 minutes somewhere in a park and set the system up, and you bring the keg, I'll bring the system, and we'll start pouring beer kind of
Yeah.
thing. So it gives you the flexibility and the simplicity and the ease of setting up the system, really offer a multitude of options for somebody. You can even, I've hooked it onto my Costco wagon that I bought at Costco, put a keg of beer in there, and bolted the tap onto the back and had a truly portable keg beer serving system. So,
So
um,
explain, I guess let's start there. Explain what this system actually is, because we're talking about kind of just adding on like a flex tap thing here, but
yeah,
like help us visualize what this thing actually is.
well, I'm going to give you a really good visual because I brought visual aids today. So this is the system. It's what I'll call a conventional beer tower look. So if you're the customer, hopefully you can see this good. That's what a customer kind of sees from that perspective. And it's simply we use a super heavy duty clamp and we clamp it onto a surface, a bar, a table, a picnic table, whatever. And you've got, you can have your custom handles, whatever you want with the system. And you only have about a 2 foot line.
Hmm.
So it's very easy to clean, very easy to work with. You don't have a lot of issues with like with a jockey box, for example, let's say you have the beer kegs and, maybe they're 80 degrees or something. It's hot outside. You haven't iced them down a lot and things like that. Once you start going through those cold coils, you're going to generate a lot of foam and stuff. So sometimes
Hmm.
that's hard to dial in. We've got 2 feet of line. That 2 feet of line holds 1.5 ounces of liquid. So you don't have some crazy amount of spirals to go
Right.
kind of thing. And that makes it easy. We also, I don't think I have one out here though. I meant to get one. We have a cooler bag, which is a dry bag that you put the keg in and ice the keg in the cooler bag. So that's the other part of the system that's critical. So that's what it makes it a substitute for a jockey box. You put your keg in the bag, it's an insulated dry bag, fill it with ice, and then you put it right next to your add-a-tap tower and you go anywhere. We also offer, so you could use CO2, conventional wisdom would use CO2. We also built a keg presser. This is a small air compressor, but it's made for draft beverages. We have a high-low pressure that you set. If you're consuming the keg this afternoon, do you really need to use CO2? Not really. So
Hmm.
one way to think of this is almost like it's a fancy electronic hand pump, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
So
makes
just
it
to
fun
kind
and
of
easy.
to recaps for especially the folks that are maybe listening to this, what this thing really is like it's a tower, it's a tap tower that is clamped to a tabletop and then runs straight to a keg. And that keg, you could put it in an ice chest, you can have it underneath the bar. You could probably run it in to a fridge or something like that. It's
You
kind of
could.
like it reminds me of like like the kegerators. You got the top of the tower and then it just
Yeah.
runs right in below, but without the rest of the refrigerator. It's like the
Right.
portable kegerator system.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it makes it is really cool to actually see it in person too. I'm glad you wheeled that thing over at CBC. It's like, oh man, you could totally put this in a wagon or
Yeah.
some kind of mobile setup and have it out at the beer fest too. And then like, okay, let's say you have this thing, now you have the opportunity to flex tap lines and at will, depending on what you got a keg of. And yes, you brought the example of your beer, right? Speaking from the brewery's perspective, but let's say you're a bar or you've got a tap room, you got lots of different stuff. You want to kind of have something else on the menu that maybe isn't beer. What are some of the use cases? What are people using this thing for? And maybe more of that alternative category.
Well, we see a lot of people doing RTDs, so ready to drink beverages. Um,
Hmm.
we've seen them hooked up to corny kegs, if you're familiar with a corny keg,
Mhm.
and people pouring margaritas or Cosmos or something like that. Um, those have become very popular, and people bought our system to do that because that's not something that they might do regularly, right? Maybe on the weekend, the bar says, "Oh, we're gonna do a special margarita," or "Hey, maybe they're doing a michelada or something," kind of thing. In
Hmm.
a corny keg, you make one, and so you can set it up and pour draft beverages, and it's very efficient in that way. Especially if you were doing in a festival type of setting or a high volume setting. You're pulling a tap handle as opposed to mixing up, one, two margaritas after another kind of thing. So we
Oh,
see
that's
that,
brilliant. Yeah, you have the
right?
premix. And if you want to have something like that, and let's say you're doing like we just promoted an event for somebody and they did some like cool little like craft cocktails, that are coming
Exactly.
out of there. It's like you have to spin that up. You don't have to burn a whole line or hey, we're just going to put it outside or something like that. And what this really does is, I mean, yeah, you can flex tap lines, but it's an additional revenue stream, right? An easy one
Totally.
that you can add, right?
Yeah, totally. Totally. And it's fun. It's fun. You could do
You see
some
people doing it for
great fun.
like non-alc stuff, so like maybe like
Yeah.
coffee or root beer or something.
We've seen coffee, probably. I don't know. I don't know if I shouldn't call this strange. I'm just going to say it surprised me that we sold a system to a woman that was doing, and I don't know that I can fully explain it, keg tea.
Okay, like
So
iced
she,
tea in a keg.
yeah, I guess. And she said, "Oh, we keg our tea and serve it." And she goes, "This is perfect for,
Oh
what
wow,
we're
is it
doing."
carbonated? Like it's
I
like
don't
bubbly tea?
know. I don't know. That's what I said. I can't really explain it. But she's like, "Oh, this is perfect for our keg." I said, "You keg tea?" And I tried to understand it, and I never saw it in action, but she used it for that. We've seen it used for like kombucha, coffee. I know there was some coffees that they were putting in key kegs that worked really well with that
Hmm.
kind of
I can see
thing.
the coffee thing work. And you got some cool cold brew or something like that. You want to put out there and maybe for a brunch setup,
Yeah,
so it could be kind
absolutely.
of a fun thing to use it for.
Absolutely.
Uh,
Prosecco,
ooh, Prosecco.
wine. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess I skipped over the origin of the whole system actually was not beer. We started with wine
Oh, really?
because, yeah, what happened was um, there's a few wineries, well, quite a few, that are kegging wine. So let's say you go to a restaurant, you're not looking for nickel and nickel or opus or something. Somebody says, "I want a glass of red wine." It really doesn't make sense for these restaurants to have wine in bottles when somebody's just saying, "Give me a red wine," kind of thing.
Mhm.
Very different. So they're kegging wines, and the winemakers were having real trouble with the keg wine in restaurants because the restaurants didn't want to take a beer off tap, which makes sense, right? So they couldn't sell keg wine, even though it was a great idea, until they used our system. Then they went in with our system and said, "Hey, you don't have to take it off tap. You can add a tap to the bar
Mm.
and keg wine." And it's a lot more efficient, if you're just using a house wine type of thing. Obviously, keg wine's a lot more efficient. So that was how we really stumbled into it, and then stumbled into beer, and then stumbled into no jockey box, and it
You were
kept
just stumbling
going.
everywhere,
Just
into
stumbled
Vegas, into
from
the industry.
one, yeah, just stumbled through the whole thing. So it kind of started with it really did start with wineries couldn't get their keg wines into any businesses.
You kind of bring up a good point is that, the keg wine, they're trying to get into businesses. So this is kind of a wholesale distribution
Yeah,
angle. And if you can't say that's okay, but I'm curious, like if this, the system becomes a tool to help support wholesale distribution and saying, look, especially if you're an alternative beverage,
absolutely.
we have a system you don't have to worry about, taking out one of your lines. will set you up with this, right?
Absolutely. That I think that is the game-changing nature of it from a hard business perspective is
Hmm.
it makes something like that happen. It allows it to happen. Yeah, I mean, they were running into brick walls. No, we like the idea of a draft wine, but we can't, or even, there's a lot of pre-made RTDs now. How do you
Mhm.
sell that into a bar? Nobody wants to take a beer off tap, and it makes total sense. I'm making this money. My beers are on tap, but it's a way to facilitate, different beverages. Even breweries could add, draft wine. You're going to have people come in and, you want a beer, I want a beer, and, the girls with us want a white wine or red wine or whatever, or the guys want white wine or red wine for whatever reason. That's cool.
Well, it's you hit on an important note because that is absolutely a common conversation and hurdle folks are trying to get over in the craft beer space is, we need to add alternative beverages to
Yeah.
attract more consumers, right? Like we need to have some wine, and some cocktail like stuff for the ladies because there's less ladies that drink craft beer. No nod to the ladies that do enjoy
Right.
craft beer,
Yeah.
but yeah, you got to have some other stuff. Maybe you have some NA stuff or a coffee or a soda or something like that. You've already got all your lines full. Now you got to try to figure this out. It's just part of the problem. But, um, that's kind of why I wanted to have you on the show is like, man, this is a creative way to maybe make this work.
Yeah.
And maybe experiment with some stuff. I love the concept for events too. It's like
Yeah.
if you're hosting an event at your tap room, doing a big anniversary. One of our clients, they do like 8 or 12 beers they put out for their anniversary. And it's a big thing, right? They want to have a lot of different stuff, like small little kegs of things. They're doing small amounts of it, but man, you could do a lot more flexibly. I don't know how to say that. You could do a lot more
Yeah.
easily with some of these expanded keg kind of options here with this thing during an event, and then pack it up and put it away. The other application, which I think is interesting, is the beer festival side of this
Mhm.
thing. And you have your sign back there that says no
There
more
it is.
jockey boxes. What's the comparable here between this system versus? You kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier, but let's unpack
Yeah.
that as
Yeah.
this versus a jockey box.
Well, it's smaller. So we have our tower. You've got we have the clamp that goes on there. That's that part. I did a bad job of getting a bag, but it's a bag. It's an
Uh,
insulated dry bag. So it's a bag you can compress and fold up. So you've got your tower, your bag. It's smaller. It's easier to transport. If you want to go super easy and you're going to do the whole keg today and you're okay with air, this is it. It's this, the tower, and the bag, and well, I guess the coupler too, but you're pouring beer kind of thing. So
yeah,
that's a big advantage is the size and ease. I think one of the huge advantages too is cleanup. You know, our system, we have an ounce and a half of liquid in that line. This is it. This is where the beer is going. That's it. You
yeah.
can put this whole thing in the sink when I clean it, I put the whole thing in the sink. I put some Dawn detergent in there and I start running it under the faucet and I let it go. And then I just leave it in the sink to dry out. So
Mhm.
it's super easy to
Yeah, you
clean.
could put it in a sanitizer tub, no problem.
No problem. Yeah, you could submerge it, whatever you want to do, and it's super easy. Um, and I think it looks nicer than a jockey box. I mean, it's a real beer tap. It's a real tower
Mhm.
kind of thing. So it's smaller, it's a lot easier to clean and maintain, and um, generally speaking, it's less expensive, when you compare the
Is it as
price.
efficient to keep stuff cold? I mean, you're getting cold beer. I mean, I guess if you're icing down the keg.
Because we're icing down the keg, we have an insulated dry bag. So you can get the beer as cold as you want to get it, kind of
Got
thing.
it.
Yeah.
Love the cleanup portion. You also mentioned earlier too that with less line, there's less potential for like foamy beer, and I guess that helps with waste, right? You're not pouring as much down the drain.
Yeah, you're not going to be subjected to those extreme temperature differences that you sometimes get. You're at a beer festival, it's hot outside, people are bringing the kegs in, they try to cool them off, but then you're hitting that beer with, icy coils and it tends to foam up. So you lose a
Mhm.
lot of beer at the beginning, at least as you start pouring.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
we don't tend, I think you gave a great example. It's like a portable kegerator
Yeah.
that doesn't require power.
Yeah, you don't have a refrigerator, you don't have power.
Yeah.
It's all this, it's the system. It's the tubing and the tap and whatever, but
Yeah.
just without the fridge. It sort of reminds me of, right, my dad had one of these kegerators in our backyard when we were
Yeah.
kids. And granted, we used it plenty of times, but yeah, without the CO2 and stuff, it reminds me a lot of that tower sticking out the top of it.
Yeah. It's a portable kegerator. You get the same amount of line going from the top of the kegerator down to the keg. Pretty
100%.
much so yeah.
So let's talk numbers with this thing. I mean, let's say you're
Okay.
looking at this saying, okay, how much does this thing cost me? What does it take to get it? Can you speak to that? What's the pricing on this stuff?
Yeah, we got all our pricing online. I should have brought my price sheet with me, but you're looking at, a whole system with the bag and stuff is, going to be $200 or less. I mean, $300 or less.
Wow.
So you get the tower, you get the bag. And then if you decide you want to go with the keg presser, you can see my little keg presser name. Keg presser's going to be 129.
Okay.
But it's an infinite supply of air. It's
Yeah.
USB-C charging. It'll power a whole keg, no problem.
Yeah.
So
And it's
I get
USB charged. There's no cord on that thing. So
no,
you're just
no, there's your
charging it up
US.
and then you bring it with you.
Yeah, you charge it up and bring it with you. There's your little USB port right there. It's a
Hmm.
USB-C charging device. So actually it'll work anywhere in the world because you can use USB-C anywhere in the world.
Finally, us iPhone users are like way behind the ball on this, but now we have USB-C.
Yeah, USB-C everywhere. I'm still making the transition. My iPhone still uses the lightning cable and then my Apple TV charges with the USB and I'm like, okay, I just got to get a new
You
phone
have all
and
the dongles, as we call
yeah.
them, as nerds over here. But nice,
Yeah.
dude. So that thing charges up. You're talking, with that compressor thing, it's like 450 bucks.
Yeah.
Ship anywhere? You can
Oh
ship it
yeah,
out.
we ship everywhere. We ship to Canada. We've shipped to Mexico, primarily the US. I don't think we've gone further than Canada or Mexico, but US. And yeah, you can see us on addatap.com. You can order anything. And if you got any questions, you can obviously reach out to us there and we'll help you. We have some people who just buy the bags because they still want to keep their jockey box going, but okay, these are great. We can ice the beer down and not have those problems with foaming, and we don't have to take trash cans, or big tubs.
Yeah.
We can take these nice bags. So we've had people that bought, 10 bags to put all their kegs in at festivals kind of thing.
Funny how that works in business. And you're like, oh yeah, we'll just add this on here as a quality ad for folks buying it. And then you're like, I guess people really need this bag thing. you know?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Go ahead and grab it.
Yeah.
All right. So for those people that want to get in touch with you, Richard,
Yeah.
and find out more about this system and information, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, the easiest thing is just to go to addatap.com, no hyphens, just addatap.com. Click on the contact us. I read all the emails. I'm certainly happy to call somebody and talk about, what your situation is, what your needs might be. And, we can talk about bulk discounts too, if you're looking to
There
buy
we
a
go.
bunch of systems. So always,
We
yeah,
like bulk discounts.
bulk discounts, good. Yeah.
Right on. Well, we will definitely put all the information into the show notes, the
Okay.
addatap.com website. We'll put Richard's information in there too, so you can get in contact with him. And, I highly recommend just reaching out. Go check out the website, especially if you're listening to this. Go look at the visuals and then compare to what you heard in the show here. And, reach out to him and get some information on this because it's a pretty cool thing. At the very least, you'll learn something. And again, man, it's been awesome to hang out with you, Richard. And we got to go grab a beer at some point here in Las
That's
Vegas.
fine. Yeah. Let's hit the Arts District.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Duh. It's our favorite spot, dude.
There you go. There you go.
Right on, man.
All
Well,
right.
thank you for being here, man. We'll
Thanks
talk
for
next
having
time.
me. Appreciate it. Take care.